Horses. Many of us have been around them at least once in our life, and some of us may have even ridden them as a child. However, there are two important processes that must occur before we can ride a horse that some people do not know about or forget about. Today I'm going to inform you how to properly groom and tack up a horse before riding. Before we learn how to groom, we need to learn what is grooming and why do we groom. First, grooming is the cleaning process that you do before you ride a horse. Grooming brings up the dirt and debris from the horse and removes it from their skin and their hair. Now, we groom because it's a great way to assess our horse's health. Whenever we groom, we are looking over the horse's entire body, so we're able to see if there's any cuts or scratches or anything that needs our attention and our care. We also groom because the pressure that we apply to their skin increases their blood flow. So it's actually a great way to help warm up your horse before you ride, especially on a cold day. Grooming also releases oils that promote hair growth and leave the horses looking very shiny and clean and healthy. Now that we know why we groom, we can learn how we groom. So the first step of grooming is using the curry comb. The curry comb is a tool that you place in your hand, and it has little spikes, rounded spikes on the all over it, and you start at the neck and move down to the back in a circular motion. You never want to go against the hair, you want to go with the hair, and this just brings up debris and dirt that is sitting in their hair and their skin. So that's the first step of grooming. The second step of grooming is using a hard brush. So using the hard brush, we start again at the neck and go back to the tail, and we just want to use a flicking motion, and this gets all the dirt and debris that you pulled up off of the horse, and it leaves their coat looking shiny and polished. Next in the grooming process, we can brush their mane. So using a tool that looks like one of our hairbrushes, we just go through their mane gently, pulling out all the knots and tangles, just like you would in our hair. The last step of grooming is picking a horse's hooves. So all 4 hooves have to be picked out, and so we pick up the horse's hoof, and using the sharp end of the tool, we go around the edge of the hoof and just pick out all the dirt and get all of that out. And then we use the brush to flick off the excess dirt that we couldn't get out with the pick. So that's the end of grooming. So now we can begin tacking up. So tacking up is the process of putting on the saddle, the bridle, and everything else that we need in order to ride our horse. And tacking up is important because the tack itself helps us have better control and balance whenever we're riding our horses. So the first step of tacking up is placing the saddle pad. This is the saddle pad on the left, and the saddle pad is the first layer of protection that we put on the horse. It sits basically on top of their withers, which is where their neck and their back meet. So basically the end of their mane. And then the second step that we do in tacking up is placing a half pad on. This is just another layer of protection. It also helps hold the saddle in place a little bit better and more snug. Now that we have the protection for the saddle, we can place the saddle on. So this is where the saddle goes. It just goes directly on top of the pads, and we want to make sure the pads and the saddle are in close contact with each other, so we'll often actually lift the pads up when the saddle is on top, just making sure that they're all together. And then after we put the saddle on, we want to put the girth on, and the girth attaches on one side of the saddle and goes under their stomach and on the other side of the saddle. We want to make sure that this is pretty snug because obviously we don't want to slip off our horse because that's very dangerous. But we also want to make sure that it's not pinching the horse, especially in the winter when their coats get super furry and the hairs just get stuck. The last part of tacking up is putting a bridle on a horse. So the bridle is how you control your horse. So the first step that you do is in this picture, and you want to take the bit, which is how the horse feels what you're doing with the reins. And so you put the bit in the horse's mouth. Then once the bit is in the mouth, you pull it up over their ears, which the part that you pull over their ears is called the crown piece. And then once you have that over, it's secure. However, you have to finally secure it in 2 other places to make sure that it won't slip and that your horse is feeling the contact that you're doing with the reins, which are these. So it is secured in 2 places. The 2 places are the nose band, which goes around their nose. You want to make sure this is pretty tight as well, but you want to be able to get about 2 or 3 fingers underneath their nose. The last way that we secure the bridle is the throat latch. It goes under their throat, and we also want to be able to place a few fingers under there. And here we are with a clean horse who is safely tacked up and ready to ride so that both the horse is comfortable and the rider is. Thank you.